All right, let's dive right in. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack an absolutely critical strategy for elite legal professionals. You see, the legal market has hit a real tipping point, and if your firm is still running on an old model, I guarantee you are bleeding capital. We're going to show you exactly how to transform your practice into a high-performance machine using the principles of lean law. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle the crisis facing the legal industry today. Then we'll get into the all-important value-added mindset. After that, we'll get practical and look at the tools, Kanban, and some new performance metrics. And finally, we'll put it all together, how to build this lean machine and what it really means to gain the sovereign advantage. Let's get to it. Let's just start with a hard truth, shall we? The old way of managing a law firm isn't just a little outdated, it is a silent killer of wealth. It's draining capital right out of your business through systemic, baked-in inefficiency. And that brings us to this powerful idea. Look, this can be a tough pill to swallow, but the problem isn't a lack of legal talent in your firm. The real problem is waste that's built right into the very structure of how most firms operate. The solution? It's called lean law. And you know, what's so interesting is that this philosophy actually comes from the world of high-precision manufacturing, specifically the Toyota production system. It's all about one core mission, radically pursuing whatever creates real value for your client and then ruthlessly eliminating everything else. Okay, so before you can change your operations, you have to fundamentally change your mindset. This part is all about learning to separate the signal, the work that actually matters, from all the noise that surrounds it. In lean law, basically every task you do falls into one of these two buckets. On the left, you've got your value-added work. This is the good stuff, the high-level strategic thinking your client is actually paying you for. But on the right, you've got non-value-added work, or muda, which is just the Japanese word for waste. This is all the administrative friction, searching for files, chasing down signatures, you name it. The goal here is simple. Automate or delegate the muda so you can focus on what you do best, high-stakes intellectual arbitrage. So how do we actually do that? Well, this brings us to the first big piece of our operational overhaul, making your work visible. See, most firms operate in a state of what you could call invisible chaos, and Kanban is the tool that finally brings some order to it. This is what a classic legal Kanban board looks like. It's designed to map the flow of value from left to right. But the real magic isn't actually in the columns themselves. It's in the constraints we apply, specifically to that in-progress column. This is what we call a WIP limit, or a work-in-progress limit. And here is exactly why that WIP limit is so critical. All that research out there shows that multitasking is a complete myth. What you're really doing is just switching between tasks really fast, and that costs you up to 40% of your cognitive capacity. By limiting the number of active files, you force a flow. You stop starting and you start finishing. Okay, so now that we can actually see our work, let's talk about measuring it the right way. This section is all about finally ditching the billable hour as your main metric and adopting a new scoreboard that measures what truly drives wealth and efficiency. Think about it. The billable hour, that old metric, it fundamentally rewards inefficiency, right? The longer a task takes, the more you bill. The new scoreboard completely flips this on its head, focusing instead on key performance indicators, or KPIs, that directly drive wealth. The first big KPI is cycle time. Simply put, how long does it take to get from that initial client onboarding all the way to case resolution? As this chart shows, when you reduce your cycle time, you don't just get happier clients. It means faster capital rotation for your firm, which, let's be honest, means you get paid faster. Next up, we have the realization rate. This measures how much of the work you actually billed was collected. If your rate is below 85%, as you can see from this leaked slice, you have a serious structural leak in your business model. You are, in effect, giving away free consulting. And finally, let's talk about client acquisition cost, or CAC. This is simply how much it costs you in marketing, sales, and time to land a new high-value client. If you don't know this number, you're just flying blind. I love how this slide puts it. This is the difference between running a professional practice as a business versus just having a hobby. Okay, so we've visualized the work and we're measuring all the right things. Now it's time to actually build the lean machine. And that means two things: slashing the legacy drag of old expenses and upgrading your tech stack so it becomes your hardest working employee. Legacy drag. That's the silent killer of wealth we talked about earlier. What is it? Well, it's the expensive, ego-driven real estate, bloated admin teams, and all those fragmented pieces of software that don't talk to each other. A truly lean firm attacks these costs with clinical precision. And one of the most effective tools for this is something called the 5 whys technique. You just take an expense and you keep asking why, like a relentless auditor. Why this software? Why do we need that feature? Why can't we automate this? I'm telling you, by the time you get to the 5th why, you have often uncovered a core inefficiency or an expense you can just cut entirely. Now, reducing overhead isn't about being cheap. It's about upgrading your tools. The 2026 tech stack enables what we call straight-through processing. As you can see in this flow, when a task moves to done on your board, it automatically generates a time entry and queues it for invoicing. The whole administrative spine of the firm just becomes automated. And this brings us to our final section, the ultimate payoff. Because implementing lean law, it's about so much more than just boosting profits. It's about achieving what we call the sovereign advantage, reclaiming your time, your focus, and your professional freedom. This isn't some one-time project, by the way. It's a discipline of continuous improvement, a concept known as Kaizen. It means that when a deadline is missed, you don't assign blame, you audit the process. Mistakes suddenly become incredibly valuable data that you use to make the entire system stronger. In the end, all of these tools, all these metrics and mindsets, they serve a single, powerful purpose. Efficiency isn't just about money. It's what unlocks your freedom, the freedom to focus on the high-level work you were truly meant to do. So I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. After everything we've just covered, is your practice truly being managed as a high-performance business? Or is it still being run like a hobby? Because the answer to that question will likely determine your future.